from Patterns for Pirates, and I'm going to show you some of my very favorite fabrics I've used to sew up the new wrap dress. What I'm going to do is show you some of the tester versions that I've sewn up so far, and then I just have one or two fabrics I have set aside that I want to sew up if I have some more time. I always have more fabrics picked just in case I have a little more time to sew. I never quite get through that pile because I will keep piling them on, but hopefully I get to a few more before release. One of the easiest ones to use is a double brush poly. This one is a youth size for my daughter, but it works great for youth or adult. It has a nice drape. It doesn't wrinkle very much, and it's nice and easy to work with. It's very, very easy to find, especially in the online fabric world. One thing that you want to think about is what options you're sewing and what those pieces look like. So I'm holding up a flounce piece with a flounce neckline and a flounce along the hem. One thing you have to consider with the flounces is that they are circular pieces. And so you really can't use a directional fabric or say a stripe because the flounce is a circular piece. So your stripe will only be straight on one small part of your flounce. And the rest of the flounce will be sideways and upside down, much like a circle skirt. So that will be the same on the neckline flounces and the hemline flounces. It's really best to use a non-directional print for those. This one again is double brush poly. I find double brush poly a little warm to wear, but it is nice and stretchy and it is super forgiving as well. I don't find that it is super clingy, even though it's a thinner fabric. Another one that I used a couple of times is a rayon blend. This is again for the youth. You really want a soft drape for the flounce option because you want it to lay and drape down and look nice and ruffly along the bottom of the flounce. So this one is a rayon. It does tend to wrinkle more than double brush poly. It is much lighter to wear though. It's not hot, which is a huge bonus if you're making a summer dress, especially if you live in a warmer climate. It's also fairly easy to find prints and solids in a rayon. You could also do a bamboo is another really great one that has a really nice soft drape and isn't hot to wear. This one is another rayon modal blend. It's another flounce. This is a solid, so nice and easy to work with the flounces. It's nice and drapey for the flounces. I really loved this one. So again, this is a rayon, modal, bamboo, those really nice, soft, drapey ones. This one is another one for my daughter. This one I had a directional print, the stripes, and so for the flounces I went with a solid because again the flounce pieces are very circular, and so the stripes would be really crazy going all different ways along the flounces. So I went with a solid. Now the flutter sleeves do a little bit as well because it's pretty circular as well, but I find the flutter sleeve looks okay even with a directional print. And it kind of V's, if you can see. But if that is going to bother you because it's not going to be the same direction as your body, that's also something to consider with the flutter sleeve. This is a some sort of poly rayon cotton blend. So again, nice and drapey and soft. Here's another polyester blend. This one is just a poly spandex. So again, super drapey for those flutter sleeves. This one has a flounce hemline. So as you can see, it's super drapey and it really makes the flounce fall and get those gorgeous ruffles along the bottom. The more soft drape you have in your fabric, the prettier your flounce is going to fall and ruffle. If you have a thicker, more stable fabric, your flounces aren't going to ruffle as much. They're just going to lay flat. So something to consider when you're wanting those beautiful flounce ruffle pieces. Here is my last flounce suggestion. This is an itty. This is a gorgeous, super large scale print itty. When I got this out of the box, I was amazed at just how large the scale was. Gorgeous. But as you can see, it just has such a soft drape. It creates so many little waves, ruffles for the flounce. If you had a more stable fabric, it would create less waves and ruffle look. So again, this is an itty. Itty is also I-T-Y. I call it itty, but it is capital I, capital T, capital Y. It's a method they use for making this kind of knit. I believe it's a inner twisting yarn. It makes it a very soft, smooth face, so it feels super soft. It's incredibly drapey. It's gorgeous for long maxis, and it's very breathable to wear. I find it's super easy to wear in a hotter climate. So itty makes a gorgeous one with flounces and a gorgeous maxi one, especially during the summer if you're looking for a maxi but one that you're not going to be hot in. Itty is wonderful for that. It also tends to be slightly dressier looking because of the smooth face than say a rayon blend jersey, at least in my mind. So that's an option if you're looking for a dressier summer option. A dressier winter option now I'm going to show you is you could do something like a stretch velvet. Now with stretch velvet you have to be very careful because the nap looks different if you turn it. So I have to cut all the pieces with the nap going down. If you cut one with the nap turned the wrong way, not sure if you can tell on the screen, but it looks darker and it looks like two completely different shades. So if you're doing a directional print or one with a nap that has a direction, you need to be really careful about your yardage, because if you can't fit your pieces across the width the same, you might need a lot more fabric for a directional print. So that's my warning for velvet. Oftentimes you don't realize velvet is a directional print because it looks more like a solid. But if you turn a velvet the opposite way, hopefully you can tell, one looks much darker than the other. But this gives for a beautiful fall, winter, cooler weather maxi. Something to consider with the velvet though is the flounces are going to have the varying shades because it's a circular piece. So part of the flounce will be cut with the grain up and down, and then part of the flounce will be cut with the grain side to side, and then part of it will be upside down. So if you are not going to like that variance in color, you're not going to want to use velvet for a flounce. I made a matching one for me and baby girl out of the crushed velvet. She said mine made me look like Elsa, so I took that. It's gorgeous. It has nice, pretty drape. And it is a stretch velvet. This is one of my very favorites that I've made so far. This is a ribbed knit. I believe it's just a poly cotton blend rim knit. I'm not 100% sure, but it's nice and stretchy horizontally. It has a teeny tiny bit of mechanical stretch vertically. And let me talk about that real quick. You can use a two-way stretch for this wrap dress, but some things to consider are the fitted sleeves. They are fitted sleeves if you're using the traditional sleeve. The flutter sleeve, of course, is very, very loose, but the traditional set-in sleeve is a fitted sleeve. So something in like a long sleeve might feel a little tight around your elbow in a two-way stretch. Another thing to mention about a two-way stretch is you do not have as much freedom in playing with the neckline. With a four-way stretch, you have a lot of freedom in how much you can stretch vertically in your coverage if you want more coverage. If you have a two-way stretch, it's not going to stretch a ton to have more coverage on the deep V. It will stretch horizontally, but not vertically. So if you're worried about having more coverage on top on the V neckline, you want to use a four-way stretch because that will give you more freedom in pulling your neckline where you're comfortable. I love this one. This one has no flounces, nice and plain. Here's another rim knit, and this is one showing a directional print again. So I went with the plain neckline, and this is actually a shirt cut line. And you can tell on the ties, if I wrap it around, the ties are cut cross grain than you normally do. So the stretch is actually going up and down right now. And that is so your ties will tie, be nice and snug, and not stretch out on you during the day. I don't like super stretchy ties where they pull and you pull and you pull and they just keep stretching. So that's why they're cut cross grain. And so you can tell from my stripe which way the stretch is going. So if that's going to bother you on a stripe, it's something to consider. If you really, really want your stripes going the same way as your shirt, you could always use a little bit of interfacing. Same if your fabric has four-way stretch and just a ton of vertical stretch. A good tip is to use a little knit interfacing on your ties so that when you pull and you tie them, it's snug and it's tight and it stays put and it doesn't stretch out during the day and your ties don't get longer and longer and longer. You don't want to have to retie your shirt. This is just a matching one for my little girl. Some of the fabrics I have set aside that I haven't already mentioned, I have a sweater knit. This is a medium weight sweater knit. I think it would be super beautiful in a sweater knit. So I have this gorgeous leopard print sweater knit set aside, hoping that I have time to sew it up. My last one that I can suggest is a French terry. Now, depending on the options you want to do, will depend on what kind of French terry will work. There's several different kinds of French terry. This is a rayon blend and a pretty non-directional print. I'd say this one you could almost do in any of the options. One thing to consider that I haven't mentioned about the flounce options is that they have a raw edge. You don't want to pick something that curls very badly. So I wouldn't want to use this on my flounces because it very obviously curls. Now, if you are just dead set on using a certain fabric, you just love it, it's got all the right qualities except for it curls, there is an option to just roll hem the edge. I do not suggest hemming it. And the reason why is because it will not drape as beautifully. You really want your flounces to create those they're not really gathers, but you really want your flounce to create those waves on the bottom like a ruffle. If you hem the edge of this, it's going to become more stable and stiff and thick, and it's not going to create those gorgeous waves as much as if you just leave it raw. So, if your fabric rolls, but you're dead set on using that fabric, it's going to be gorgeous. You know what, you can just roll hem that edge so that it doesn't curl on you super bad. If your French terry is thicker, or a cotton French terry, something without much drape, I wouldn't suggest using it for the flounces. So a plain option like my striped shirt, or this one with no flounces, straight bottom hem, would work perfectly. Okay guys, I think I've hit all the most important notes for picking the perfect fabric for the option that you want in the new wrap dress. I hope you can find a few favorite fabrics that will fit perfectly with a few different options so you can sew up a couple, fill up your closet with these gorgeous wrap dresses. I've had so much fun sewing up ours, and I can't wait to see yours. Good luck!